former CTO and CIO, so today's talk with Jurgen is especially interesting to me. Having led large organizations, I get a sense of the things that I certainly did wrong and the things that I need to learn along the way. And certainly Jurgen's book and the lessons that he has to teach us could have jump-started me in several ways. So I'm looking forward to today's talk. So before we get started, a few things. First and foremost, I do want to start with the thank yous. And thank you to Ghislaine and Erickson for hosting our event here at Erickson. Okay, Ghislaine's over there, so wave your arm. And you can see the sponsors are listed, and there's several of them. One is Greg Sarcona, and he's an unusual sponsor because he's an independent guy. He's a Agile coach, Scrum Master extraordinaire, and he just sponsors the wine because he's a heck of a nice guy and a great wine guy. And my firm Bratton, we sponsored tonight's desserts, and so thank you for and enjoy the desserts. And if I bring them home, my wife won't she won't let me in the house. So please finish up all the desserts. I really appreciate it. Thanks. So the other interesting thing about tonight is we typically don't do a lot of giveaways, but tonight we will. We do have a book, Management 3.0 book to give away. So we're testing out Twitter, and I'm sure our good friends up at Twitter would appreciate this. I've got a handle, I think it's at brattoninc.com. It'll show up there. If you follow Bratton Inc., then we can see you following us, and then I've got a team of people who are going to call me with who the person is. We're going to randomly pick them. So you have until, I think, 7:15, and then they're going to pick somebody, and we're going to give away the book at the end of today. So if you could sign up, that'd be great, and we'll get that in your hands. Two other things, job boards. It says the job boards are in the back of the room, but they're not. They're actually right over here. So if there's a job or announcement that you've got, feel free to put the jobs up, and they're jobs that you're looking for or jobs that you want. So usually the jobs that people are offering will be up there. So at the end of the evening, feel free to check in with that. And last but not least, I don't know who all helped set up tonight but got that organized. But I do know that Brian was helping out with check-in. So Brian Drummond, thanks for checking everybody in and getting things started for us. Have I missed anything? We good?
Did you say the announcements as well?
Yeah, announcements are over there. So right next to Larry. Hey Larry, wave your arms. Yeah, so it's over by Larry. Thanks Larry. Good animation. Good animation. So with that, so tonight was kind of an interesting night. We got together, gosh, it was many months ago, and we were able to secure the venue, and we had no idea who we were going to put in tonight. And then lo and behold, a very special person in the Bay Area, she was a true Agilist, and she's always been doing some wonderful things for the community. Alina, where's Alina? Alina pulls this out of her hat, says, hey, Jurgen Appelo is going to be there, be in town, would you like to have him speak? And before, it didn't take more than 30 seconds before we said, yeah, for sure, via email, and we were able to get Jurgen. So with that, I'd like to hand the microphone over to Alina so she can give Jurgen a proper welcome and a proper introduction.
So people ask me today, do I know Jurgen? Do I know Jurgen? I took his class last year. I learned about book Management 3.0. I'm a big fan of Agile. And I don't come from the world of software. I manage engineers, but I don't really want to work with them anymore. Don't take any offense. I work with managers, and I'm always on the lookout for what is available out there that would let everyone do better what they do. It always of interest to me why we manage to turn our workplaces into something boring and not inspiring. And why, as a management consultant or a project management consultant, I always invited in to fix a particular process, when in reality it's not the process that needs to be fixed. It is not the one process that needs to be fixed. Never. So I read a lot, and I came around Management 3.0 book. I read it and I was thinking, gee, every manager needs to read it. Really, just every manager needs to read it, needs to understand that the world of command and control is going on. We all need to adapt to change. Everything that's happening in the world of agile software development is very applicable to the world of management as well. What is the true meaning of servant leadership? What is the true meaning of self-organizing teams? What will make us to come to work and actually enjoy it every day? So I read the book. I saw that Jurgen's coming over to the Bay Area, and I took his class and spent some time after the class with him, and we had a great chat. And I read his blog. Jurgen is from Denmark, so he's a Dutch guy. As he's saying, yes, Dutch guy. That's you can read on his blog. Creative networker. Jurgen started as a CTO, right? Your CIO, yeah. So Jurgen actually comes from the world of the actual development, when I come just from the world of management. Tomorrow, I'm organizing his workshop in San Francisco. And the workshop is going to be on his new book, Management 3.0 Workout. So far, Jurgen has 3 books, right? Management 3.0, How to Change the World on Change Management, and Management 3.0 Workout. When I heard that he's bringing new workshop to San Francisco, I was thinking, well, gee, I help him because I like his stuff. And I was thinking that everyone should like his stuff. And I run meetings for BALN, and I used mailing lists for BALN, and I was thinking, gee, the minute I'll blast it out, people will sign up. But no, people didn't. I got few I got few inquiries, but what appeared to me that for some reason the Jurgen stuff was not very well known. So I decided, since I'm a big fan, I would like to promote Jurgen as far as possible. And so you probably see in my email blast asking to join the workshop. And I'm very glad that we were able to work out with Stacy in this event. Again, I would highly encourage everyone to read the first book. Welcome to come to the workshop tomorrow if you have time and experience the book number 3, and book number 2 on change management is small but very good one. Very, very easy and nice read. I personally think that the more effort we put in trying to figure out how we make our workplaces exciting, the better world we will create for everyone. People were asking me what kind of things can be expected in the workshop. Jurgen creates very interesting games, lots of practical stuff that can be taken and applied to your workplaces. Just yesterday I came from coaching gig in Tanzania where a startup hired me to improve their management processes. And I applied moving motivators and the green marching in my coaching sessions. And it's interesting why it is so surprising to managers to see that the people need to be energized, but they need. So Stacy is waving at me, I'm talking too much today, sorry. Jurgen, radical thinker, creative networker, and a Dutch guy.
All right, this is thing on? Yeah, this is on. All right. So next time when they invite me for a conference and I can't go, I will just send a link. That's awesome. She already said everything, so we'll now have the Q&A. No, just kidding. Yes, I will forgive you the little Denmark thing, Elena. I'm from the Netherlands. And yes, I'm Dutch. I apologize for that. I apologize for being Dutch. I have to because in Europe the Dutch guys are known as the rude ones. You see, normal people have this thing in their brains that sits between their thinking processes and their mouth that filters stuff before it escapes into the social conversation. And Dutch people don't have it. It got stripped out of our DNA a couple of 100,000 years ago. It is not known to us. So with the French, a coffee occupies about half of their heads, I think. But with us, it's the opposite. So whenever I say something and think, oh my God, what is he saying now? This is so embarrassing, or this is so offensive. Just think that, what a wonderful thing that he dares to go on stage with a mental deficiency, right? That's the best way to look at it. All right, so yes, I am the author of Management 3.0. That's this book. Can we switch to my presentation? I didn't make this. Can someone switch some things? So I created the Management 3.0 book, and I did 2-day classes all over the world. All right, perfect. Thank you, Stacey. On all continents except Africa, basically. I've been to China, I've been to Russia, I've been to most countries in Europe, Southern America. I've even been to Cleveland, Ohio. Go figure. I've been almost everywhere. And in those 2-day classes, we talk about scientific stuff, complexity science, systems thinking, but also practical stuff like moving motivators and delegation poker. And I noticed that people have the same questions wherever I go. These are the questions that people ask. No matter where I am, these are the questions that people ask all the time. Actually, there's one missing, that is the question, so you travel a lot. Yes, I travel a lot. That's the number one question. But then these come straight after. How can we motivate our workers? How can we change the organization's culture? How can we change the mindset of managers, etc., etc.? How can we develop people's competencies? Can you see a pattern in these questions? All the questions are about how can we change other people? Isn't that interesting? I know what I want, but they are not doing what I want. So how can we change them, basically, so that we have better organizations? I understand that, but I also believe at some level that this is an outcome of the way we manage organizations. We try to manipulate everyone else instead of learning to do a better thing ourselves and contributing to better organizations. So I set out to write a third book, which is Management 3.0 Workout, and I had several goals for that book. First of all, it had to be very, very practical, because whenever I discuss theory, people say, oh yeah, that's very interesting, and they nod, and then they fall asleep. And when I discuss interesting practices, then they start writing down, and they copy stuff, and they steal my games from my courses, and etc. So I thought we might have to make it very practical. All the stuff that I'm going to talk about right now is stuff that you can start doing next week, basically. That was my goal for my new book. And the second goal was I tried to get rid of everything related to IT, because many people said again and again, this is just common sense management stuff that you're talking about. Why do you have so many references to IT? Well, that's my frame of reference. That's where I come from. I was CIO. I was a software developer. So that's my background. But it is common sense management according to many. So I literally had items on my checklist, on my definition of done while writing, that said remove all words agile. remove all words software, remove all words development, etc. Only when they were really, really necessary did they survive that scrutiny. And I think everyone needs to contribute to better organizations. That is why one of my favorite quotes is, management is too important to leave to the managers. Everyone is responsible for management. We shouldn't wait for managers to start introducing better practices. There are many things that we can do ourselves, is what I am convinced. So I started looking for interesting stuff that we can start doing next week. And I basically let Serendipity do its work. I love that word. There's no equivalent in my own language, which will be a great challenge to for my translators, I think. But to give you an example, I sat in a bar after a conference in Norway, after a keynote session, talking with the organizers, and I sometimes ask this question: so, do you have any inspiring management practices that you experienced in your organization? And one of the guys said, well, I was part of what we call the co-pilot program. Ivar was that, Ivar Ostus. And he said, Ivar said, I was the co-pilot of our CFO for half a year. That meant I could join any meeting with the CFO, and I was part of discussions, and basically I was his co-pilot. And that was so awesome. I learned a lot about financial stuff, but I could also give my perspective from someone totally else in the organization that helped him make better decisions. And I've never heard of such a practice before. This is something that you can start doing next week. Introduce a co-pilot program. Now, if I started looking for answers to these questions, how can we motivate our workers, and type it into Google, I would never find a co-pilot program, something like that. These things need to be discovered by just talking with people. So I have many more culture videos, employee photo walls that I found in Poland, and many more interesting ideas. This resonates with me because I've also looked into coaching practices, and I came across appreciative inquiry, powerful questions, improvisational theater, all fascinating topics that I'm sure some of you have heard of before. And they all seem to point at asking fewer questions and let great things happen from the spontaneous interaction with people. You can read more about that in the Improvement Dialogue chapter. And we're going to do an exercise after I've stopped talking and boring you to death, 40 minutes, 35 minutes. We're going to do an exercise at the tables here. Let random stories emerge among the participants. But first, about my book. So I've been working on that book for about 2 years, I think, and I'll show you some pictures of what it looks like. Does it look awesome? I am so proud of this book. Look at that. Great. This is a horse I sat on in Chile, by the way. It's a very, very fascinating horse. This horse was discriminated against by the other horses. It happened. The other horses were black. I'm kidding you not. The other horses were black. There were 6 horses in our group, and my horse was white, and the other horses were being nasty to the white horse. It's amazing. So this had to be managed. And my guy said, make sure that you are at the back of the line whenever we were riding up a mountain, because it is trying to kick the other horses if it's behind it, because it had been mistreated by the other horses. So this is managing a self-organizing system. Fascinating example that I described in my book. Anyway, so a couple of more pictures. And this is the person who was designing my book, Linda. Linda is Dutch, like I am, but she traveled all over the world while designing my book. And I paid her a lot of money, and here you see her working really hard in India. And then she was working extremely hard in Bali. And this is Linda working, I suppose, on my book in Japan, and then Linda working, I think, in Thailand, and Linda in Turkey, and then Linda in Iran, and that was Linda working on my book all over the world. Now, Linda is a great person, but I noticed after 2 years of working with Linda that I knew absolutely nothing more, very little about Linda. She was a co-worker. And that was a bit embarrassing. I started drawing a personal map of Linda, what our goals in education, work, training, etc. I knew she had dogs, 2 dogs, that she's very happy with. And she's a creative designer, obviously. I know where she lives. I knew that she was vegan. I had picked that up at some point, and that she had a husband. And basically that was it. The personal map that I created of Linda was staring at me and accusing me of how little I knew about her after 2 years of working with her. So I said, Linda, we're going to have dinner next week. And I'm going to ask you some questions because this is embarrassing. I've been working with you for two years. I know very little. So after dinner, I knew that she's not vegan, vegetarian actually. So error corrected there apparently. And that she has a husband called Fahid. She met him in Iran, and she is planning to settle down with Fahid, which is very difficult to get someone from Iran into Europe, but they're managing. And then the other 2 hours of dinner were discussing how she met her husband in Thailand. It was all very interesting. It was all very interesting. So this part of the map is now filled with a lot of information about him. Now I show you this exercise because for me this is an example of getting to know the people that we work with. It is sometimes surprising how little we know of each other. And I was in a keynote session a couple of years ago in Spain, Barcelona, and Jim McCarthy was speaking there. He's a known keynote speaker in the Agile community. And he said, you guys have one thing wrong in the Agile community. You're always focusing on co-location. He said, co-location is not the point. It is not your goal to reduce that physical distance between people. He said it is about reducing the mental distance between people. I thought, yes, of course. That's it. We're trying to understand each other better, to be mental closer with each other. And then it helps being in the same room, or having dinner, or having a workshop at the same location as I have tomorrow. That helps. But then you can spread out. Some of my best friends live across the world, and then when we have a Skype call, we can still have great conversations as if we're sitting next to each other. So the personal maps exercise is simply for me a reminder that I need to ask more questions of the people that I work with. That's one example. One simple practice that you can start with the next week. Let me tell you some more about the book. At one point, I started looking for beta readers. That was interesting. I asked on my mailing list and on my blog, who wants to be the beta reader of my book? 100 people offered themselves. Oh, I thought that's too much. That's too much. I can handle a dozen or maybe. So I said, okay, good. Now, be aware that it's a lot of work. It's 100,000 words that you have to read within a short amount of time, 4 weeks. And this is the deadline, and I expect you to read as much as you can. Will you really be able to do that? 50 people said yes. All right, good. Half of them, gone. They said, okay, I admit I won't be able to do it. And then I said, okay, let's start with those 50 people. And I sent my first chapters to the 50 people, and 25 actually got started. 25 people got started, and then after a while, 15 people really persisted with the next chapters. And then at the end, I had 7 people left at the end of the book. This is very typical for people signing up to volunteer for work or be part of a community and make things happen. It is so easy to say yes, isn't it? Yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to organize an event. Yes, we're going to review your book. I said, so yes. But then the following through is the hard part. That is where things usually fail. Well, I'm not blaming any of those people because I love every one of them even the people who offered, because they offer with the best intentions. But keeping that number as high as possible, that I would say that is leadership. I need to develop myself here a bit more, I suppose. But I sent some kudo cards in the direction of my readers. Appreciation cards, and this is another practice that I picked up. this one is from Poland, this practice. I was talking with a CEO of a company in Krakow, and he said we have kudo cards, we have appreciation cards for people in our company. And whenever somebody has done a job well in the eyes of somebody else, then that person gets a kudo card. Anyone can give anyone else an appreciation card. It goes into a central box, and the person who receives a compliment also gets a little present. That's nice. Dinner for two, or movie tickets, or a box of chocolates, or whatever. And he said this totally changed the organization's culture. It was a very simple practice. You can introduce it next week. Just put up a number of cards and ask people to give each other a compliment. How hard can it be for stuff that they have done well? But from the perspective of systems thinking, it makes a lot of sense. Because you're asking people to focus on the good things instead of focusing on the bad things. And they often say you get more of what you focus on. If you focus on the bad things, the mistakes that people make, the errors, etc., you just get more of that. People get scared, they get nervous, etc., and they make more mistakes. Maybe you should focus on the good things. You get more good stuff. I get comments from people, emails that they implement kudo box all over the world, and most of the time it works amazingly well. Let me give you some more practices. This is a message that I got from Betsy. She said, she emailed me, said, "Your English is remarkably good." Very perceptive person, apparently. "You have an incredible feel for the rhythm and idiom of English. And you're doing a magnificent job, and the text is a pleasure to read." Well, obviously a very intelligent person. And one of the very few who knows how to spell the word idiom. Because most people who email me spell it incorrectly with a T at the end. Now, that's just one. I have others. Your art and ability to capture ideas visually is really fantastic. You're scrolling through is a buffet for the brain. Oh, thank you, Carol. Carol is one of my favorite people. And Hamed, this is also a nice one. From Iran. My greatest thanks for your astonishing book. Every page makes me wish to become a manager someday. Oh no! More managers! My tagline is better management with fewer managers. I've failed already, and the book isn't even available on Kindle yet. So anyway, so these are compliments I get, and I cherish these compliments. I'm sure you understand it, right? Every writer wants to get some compliment for a job well done. And for me, that is an example of a work exposition. Actually, I was there yesterday in Redwood City. I had dinner at a Persian restaurant, and they had a corner with the awards that they won, and there was a compliment from a visitor. "Thank you, this was amazing dinner, and the service was great." And they had it on the wall. It was a great example of a work exposition. This is what we achieve here. And I have that as a practice, because for me this is much more inspiring as an exercise into goal setting, defining purpose for a team, or for a person, or for an organization. Just show what you have achieved, or what your history is, so that you know why you exist. I have another great story from China. Daniel knows this story. It's about Haier. I was at Haier, a huge company, the biggest manufacturers of fridges, bigger than Whirlpool by now. But Haier is a company in Qingdao, not far from Beijing. And I was invited there by the CEO to do my 2-day class. And when I was there, I learned about their heritage, about their history. And they said, it's also in a book about the company, they said that the company was nearly bankrupt 30 years ago. It was nearly bankrupt, and somebody was sent there, Mr. Jiang, who's now the CEO, to see if he could save that company from bankruptcy. And what he found was that the quality of the products was appalling. It was terrible, the fridges that they were making. There were customers bringing back the fridges because basically they didn't work. And what he did was very interesting. He went around the factory floor, and found himself the fridges that didn't work, that were about to be delivered to customers. There were about 60 of them according to the story. He found himself some sledgehammers. He passed them around to the factory workers, and he told them to destroy those fridges right there. And they thought he was nuts, out of his mind. Are you kidding? Those are new, but they're not working. They don't work. We shouldn't ship these to customers, so destroy them. Well, ultimately, the story says he was able to convince the factory workers to destroy them. Now, these were machines that cost them like 2 years in wages for the average Chinese factory worker 30 years ago. But they started hitting those machines with sledgehammers, and probably this was a liberating feeling or something, I don't know. But now Haier is known as the producer of high-quality machines. Not only fridges, but computers and a lot of other things. Why I tell this story is because I've heard the story 3 times at least when I was there. People told me, do you know the story of how we were saving Mr. Zhang? They were so proud of that. And they have an exposition, like their own little corporate museum. I was led around. And you know what's there? One of the sledgehammers. They have it on display. The thing that saved the company, the sledgehammer, as a symbol. This is much better than a mission statement that we said, we create high quality products for our customers, yada, yada, yada. Boring. That's not inspiring anyone. No, they have Mr. Zhang with a sledgehammer. If you make something that doesn't work, well, he might come with a sledgehammer. You have to destroy it. Start all over again. That's a work exposition. You can start it next week. A few more examples. I have a video, a book trailer, and it was made by me in collaboration with Marta and George, 2 amazing animators, and Paul, a voiceover from New York. And you will recognize this as credits. Right? These are your typical, well, very brief movie credits. Now, I use this as a metaphor in a chapter called Project Credits. Because I think one of the most problematic parts of organizations, traditional businesses, are the job titles that we give each other. Or actually that usually human resource departments give people on contracts. I firmly believe that we should reduce or de-emphasize the importance of job titles and instead credit people for the things that they did on projects. That is what we should recognize people. So, for example, and I use the metaphor of the movie industry here, people always ask, what is my career? What is my career path at this company? What can I become after software developer or whatever? Now, imagine that an actor like Brad Pitt would ask something like that. What can I become after actor? Lead actor? Actor manager? Vice president of acting? It makes no sense. What can he be after acting? Well, acting in a bigger movie. Or he could become a director, but then maybe he starts from scratch because he would be a novice director. Maybe he has a little head start because of his fame. Same with projects. Same with organizations. People should be credited. We should start crediting people for their contributions, like I did with the animated book trailer, and then de-emphasize titles. Let people call themselves anything they want. Like I call myself creative networker. That is on my blog and on my personal website. What is that? Well, I like the title. I give it myself. I like the word. But as a role, I am a writer for a book, or I'm a coach for somebody else, or I am a reviewer on another product. All right. Let me share some more information about my book. This is what it cost me. Any authors here in the audience? Yeah, okay, well, copy it. Useful information. So, editing. Well, I had 3 editors. Okay, so I overdid it a little bit. But I had 3 editors. Cost me a little bit. Linda, well, her travels were apparently very expensive. Jeez. All right. And, well, I had a website, book trailer, etc., etc. And then assuming that I should have been paid for my labor if somebody else had ordered that book, then well, the estimate would be more or less maybe 100K in euros. That's a lot of money. My God, am I ever going to get a return on investment? I don't know, because it's free. The book is available for free, right? You can download it right now if you want, both the text edition and the design edition, which is delivered in chapters, because I'm still working with Linda on the last couple of chapters. And well, there will be an ebook version, Kindle version, and a paper edition later on. But this is never going to generate 100K for me. I'm quite sure. That's very difficult with a self-published book. Why do I show you this? Because I believe in transparency. You can ask me anything. I'll just share it. I don't care. It might be useful for you. And it's the same with the salaries. I firmly, honestly believe in openness of salaries. Now, I will share another story with you. When I was CIO, I was responsible for sub-developers, about 60 of them, at my company in the Netherlands. Where I worked was not my company, but I was hired to be CIO. And I did a good job, apparently, introducing Scrum and Agile in the organization. I had gained some credibility and trust. And then I was able to also get the project managers and the business consultants under my wings, basically. Expanding my scope of control. And then I became responsible for their salaries. So I looked into it because I had to hire new people, I needed to know the salary levels, and I looked at the numbers and I thought, something is not right here. It looks a bit funny. So I started collecting all the information that I had about age, years of employment, education level, etc., etc. I dumped it in a big spreadsheet. I sort of reverse engineered the salary formula for everyone, and then I noticed that the project managers and business consultants earned on average about 200 euros more than the software developers. I was furious when I figured this out, being a former software developer myself. I didn't know. Well, nobody knew. And I'm also quite sure that nobody intended this to happen. This just emerged. Why? Well, because everything was secret. And I think because project managers and business consultants have something that software developers don't. I'll share it with you in a moment. Does anyone know why women on average get paid less than men all over the world? Well, there are different reasons, but one is key. It was published in the Harvard Business Review just 2 weeks ago. They would ask for a raise. Part of the problem, yeah. Negotiations. Because women are masters at negotiating for other people. And men are good at negotiating for themselves. So the system that we have is biased towards people who are able to negotiate for themselves. And we ignore the talent of being able to negotiate for other people. So this creeps into the salary system that we have. It was the same with, in my situation back then, only this was between developers versus project managers. Obviously, project managers and business consultants are great at negotiating because it's part of their job. But with software developers, not so much. They're introverts and they don't want to do technical stuff. So it's a negotiation that was part of that problem. I firmly believe in salary formulas. Buffer is a famous company, social media company. They published their salary formulas half a year ago or something. You can calculate how much you're going to earn when you're going to work at Buffer. And they have variables like cost of living, where you live, your age, etc. Gender is not part of the salary formula, obviously, right? That makes sense. So total transparency. If I ask one question all over the world, what people want out of salary systems, they always tell me it needs to be fair. Everywhere, always, same answer. It needs to be fair. Well, I think the salary formula is fair. Something you can start working on next week. I have a couple more examples, a few more, and then we're going to do an exercise. So I do these workshops now based on my notebook, and I try to practice what I preach as much as possible. This is interesting. I also try to have things self-organized, have the participants select venues and stuff like that. Well, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Like in Brussels, for example, we had 12 people signed up, and 2 weeks before the event took place, there was still no venue. And I was getting very nervous as the facilitator, I can tell you. This was self-organization not working. With Berlin, it was the other way around. Interesting enough, the Germans, they went straight for their target. But I saw on Twitter, it was announced that I would be doing a workshop at a company I had never heard of. That was self-organization one step too far. I said, oh, Jurgen is going to do the workshop at this date at our company premises. What? I don't even know who they are. Well, I applauded the enthusiasm, but I said, maybe you want to involve me. I'm the one doing it. So, but this is common among managers. You have to know how to manage the system. That's why I suggest having a delegation board. The delegation poker is a game that I have created to teach people the 7 delegation levels. Like either you tell people what you want, or you let things self-organize fully. That's level 1 versus level 7. But there are levels in between. Like level 5 is you can do what you want, but you have to listen to me first. Ask me for my opinion, and then you can make your decision. Delegation boards are put up in lots of companies, and they seem to have a great effect on constraining directly self-organization. Here's another practice that I picked up and that you can start implementing next week. Has anyone heard of OKRs? Google's OKR systems? All right, a couple of hands. Oh, it's so disappointing. We're in Silicon Valley, for God's sake. All right, well, whatever. Then I will tell you, as a foreigner, what was invented here around the corner. Actually was invented somewhere else, not at Google, but at, what was it? Intel, exactly, yes. Intel. This is a performance system that Google uses. They have everyone has an objective. Like, for example, if I apply it to my personal situation, I try to be a healthy runner. There's a qualitative goal, right? I cannot measure being a healthy runner. But I can have some separate targets, key results, like being a healthy runner would mean that on October the 1st, I should be able to run 10 kilometers per day, 5 days per week. That's what a healthy person should be able to do, I think. With an average of less than 60 minutes and with no injuries. Well, I can measure these. This is measurable. And then Google's OKR system says that once every 3 months, you go through this cycle of setting yourself an objective with several targets, and then you grade yourself. You grade yourself with a percentage. And then the average, the result should be like between 60 and 70%. That's your aim. Because if you reach all of this, then your goal was too easy. You set an objective that was too easy for yourself. Make it harder next time. If you achieve 50% or less, it was too hard. Don't be so harsh on yourself. So aim for something in between. Very interesting practice. I like that because this practice. I like this practice because it shows the difference between coming up with principles versus a practice. I wrote an entire chapter called Metrics Ecosystem with the principles of metrics. And then I was still struggling with, all right, but what exactly is the practice that people can start implementing next week? People always need to know exactly what is it that we can do next Monday morning. Because most of the management and leadership books fail in the sense that they give principles, like delighting customers. Yes, that's true. Be a servant leader. Sure, yes. How do I do that on Tuesday afternoon? No idea. I compare it with teaching people to drive a car. The principle is to get where you want without killing anyone. But it's not enough just saying this. People need a little more guidance, specific practices. How to hold the steering wheel, how to brake. In Europe, we need to learn how to shift gears. Right? In the US, you need to learn how to use cruise control. So we need to learn those things. Specific practice. This is an example. OKR is a specific practice of a metrics ecosystem. I think I have 2 more, and then I'm going to bother you with a nice exercise. I have a team of 6 people at Happy Valley, my organization. And every month, once per month, we credit each other for our contributions to being a team. Every one of us has 100 points. We call them hugs. Everyone has 100 hugs. and we have to give those hugs away to others. So 10 hugs for you, 15 hugs for you, 12 hugs for you, and 30 for you, etc., until they're all gone. With one exception, I cannot hug myself. Obviously, right? I hug myself when I'm sleeping, I approve of that, but I cannot hug myself when I'm working. So this is an example of, this is an implementation of merit money. And one of my team members, Lizette, she said she hated the practice in the beginning. Oh my God, I have to rate my colleagues for how they contributed to the team. Yes, we have to do that, because somebody needs to do it. If we're being lazy, we just have one person do it, and we call that person the manager, and then everyone's going to hate that person for doing a bad job. It's better to distribute the responsibilities. Let's all credit each other for how we contribute to the team. And you can do it any way you want. So for example, I could give 50 hugs to you because you helped me through when I was feeling depressed last month because he killed my Tamagotchi. And I was desperate, almost quitting my job, but you helped me through. Thank you for that. Thank you, I really appreciate it. So you got 50, and my 50 other hugs I spread equally among all my other team members, except him, of course. He killed my Tamagotchi. So we can do that. That is a merit money system. And it's being used at IGN, Linden Labs, Creative Second Life, several other companies, and they have some good results with it. I like it because it removes the distance between managers and the employees. Everyone is responsible for paying each other bonuses, basically. And you can then convert the credits, the hug, whatever you want, to real money once in a while. All right, last practice, last example. This is what I call a celebration grid. I created it based on a book by Donald Reinerson. He's a great writer in the Agile and Lean community, specifically. His latest, one of his books, Principles of Product Design, Flow, or something like that. Very difficult titles. I can never remember them. And his writing is even more difficult. But it's amazing. Lots of stuff about information theory, queuing theory, etc. But Donald is a 10 times smarter person than I am. However, I am a 10 times better illustrator than Donald. So I was able to convert his incomprehensible book, awesome stuff by the way, to this simple picture. And I checked it with him, he said, yeah, it actually looks good. This is what I meant. So I validated it. So on the right, on my right, on your left, yes, on my right you see mistakes. These are stupid mistakes that we make. In the middle are experiments, and on the other side we have practices. Donald says we learn most when we run experiments, in the middle. Because the idea of running an experiment is that you do something of which you don't know what will be the result. That is why we call it an experiment. You could succeed or you could fail. Either one of them. Right? That makes sense. So learning is optimal in that area. With practices, good practices, we already know that they work. That is why this area, this success area, is bigger. That's why we call them good practices. We might fail every now and then. Something happens that we did not foresee. Ooh, a new context that we discovered in which the practice does not work. Interesting. Then we learn. But that doesn't happen that often. With mistakes, it's the other way around. But if we repeat mistakes, we're just being stupid. We already know it doesn't work, so why are we doing it? Dude, where's your brain? Sometimes we get away with it. Ooh, you're lucky bastard. It could happen. So I use this grid in evaluation, in retrospectives nowadays, also at the end of my workshop. So for example, in the beginning of my current workshop, I started working without a projector. I'm not using any slides anymore. It was an experiment, but now it has moved to good practice because people seem to like it. No projector in my workshop. Venue selection by participants. Difficult. I failed there. It works sometimes, but usually I had problems, so I had to constrain that a bit more. Visualization, well, that's a success. I know people like my materials, so just repeat good practice. Homework, oh, I had a bit of a problem there. Homework is usually a good thing, but I implemented it badly in the beginning. So I learned there how to fix that. You see, this is a retrospective, a reflection tool. In a visual way, at the end of sprint, you can discuss what experiments have we started, or which new ones should we start, so that we know, are we succeeding or are we failing? And Donald says in his book that the message, we should celebrate failure, is basically nonsense. Because why would you celebrate this entire bottom part? It would include the failure from mistakes. That's stupid. Celebrate success, also not the best thing maybe, because it would include the mistakes. So what you should celebrate is experiments and practices that are repeated. I have my last story, my last example is of celebrations. That is, a couple of years ago, I told my CEO that we were not celebrating anything at our company. We were always busy going from one project to the other, and rarely had the chance to just cherish what we had achieved, pride ourselves on a project delivered or a new customer acquired or whatever. So he said, all right, what do you suggest? I said, well, maybe we should have something like a big copper ship bell or something like that, because we had a huge open office space, and I imagined that something that makes noise in the middle of the room, that would get people's attention. Oh, okay, good. Then I forgot about it. 2 weeks later, the CEO came to me with a big copper ship bell. Put it on my desk. Here's your bell. Now do something useful with it. Oh my God. All right. So I picked up the bell, I went to the office manager, and asked her to put the bell in the middle of the room. Put it up on the ceiling, and I sent an email, from now on, anyone can ring the bell when there's something to celebrate, and we will expect cookies. And then and from that moment on, we started a new practice. And it was very successful. Usually, there were about 150 people. It made a huge noise all through the office. 150 people got together around the coffee machines. Everyone knew there would be cake or cookies, probably. And then they celebrated a new project, sometimes a new baby or whatever. And it was big fun. Last time I heard the bell myself was when the CEO announced that I had quit my job. True. And I validated that the practice is still there. Last year I went to the office and I still use it, and it was just running the week before for a new project or something. So I was very proud of having introduced a simple practice. Another one you can simply start next week. Now these are all practices that are easy. It is all about management, and it's stuff that anyone can start doing. And one thing that I find important is that this is not a framework. This is not a method. I hate frameworks and methods, to be honest. Because this is an obsession of the IT industry to turn anything, any collaborative effort into frameworks and methods. I like comparing it with working out, with Pilates or yoga or whatever. There are thousands of workout exercises. If you don't like stretching, well, do crunching or whatever. It's all healthy. Just do something, right? And it depends on your context, on your body, on your purpose, whatever. So just pick and choose and create your own little method. That should also change over time, depending on your context. So I offer you workout exercise. That is why it is called Management 3.0 Workout. You can download the book for free right now, m30.me/free. And yes, the paid version will be available later. And let's do a little game. You want to do a little game? Yes? Good. All right. I need a bit of help from someone. So I have these. If you could help, we have more tables than packages, so just put half of a package on each table, because there are plenty of cards and they're all random. And can somebody help me on this side, here in the middle? Just half the package per table. And over here, half the package per table. Yep. Or maybe let's just spread out the cards. So while they're walking around, making sure that everyone has at least a few dozen cards, I will give you a little bit of background. So I started by remarking, by making a comment about appreciative inquiry and powerful questions and improvisational theater. Now, one thing that stood out to me is that these different, well, they're not methods, they're not frameworks, they're movements perhaps or something, or concepts. They suggest that maybe you shouldn't always ask questions. That's what appreciative inquiry says. Because the questions that you ask already send the organization in a certain direction. What happens is an outcome of the questions that you ask. So maybe you shouldn't always ask questions. Just let random things emerge. That's interesting. And as improvisational theater says, build on top of what others have been doing. So if you're an improvisational theater actor and you go like this, hold up your hands. And you shouldn't say, that is just your finger. It's very naughty if you do that. Right? You should do like, oh, but did you load the gun? Right? Then you use the information given, but you steer it in another direction. So you build on top of what other people have considered. So we're going to use these concepts of not asking questions and building on top of what other people have done. Does everyone have at least a small number of cards at the table? Okay, good. Now make sure that each of you has like 3 cards, just random cards. Make sure that you have 3 random cards. Doesn't matter which one. Make sure the others are all face down so that you don't get distracted by them. Yes? Larry? So everyone has 3 cards. And the rest is face down. And then you go like this. So you turn around 1 card. The one average card, a random card will be in the middle, like this one. Ooh, a set of Sudoku, or what is Sudoku stuff, or whatever. Puzzle. And then you look at your own 3 cards, and you pick one. Anyone at the table picks 1 card. So in my case, ooh, I will pick this one, question mark. And then I'm going to share a story. Something that pops up in my mind, given my work-life context. I love solving puzzles. That is why I write these books. Because it allows me to do research, and that's the most fun that I have, basically, when I write books. I come across so much interesting stuff, and I have to ask people questions, and dig into materials. So this to me symbolizes that work for me means solving puzzles. That is what it means. So I put my card next to it, and then the next person says, oh, but then I have a story as well. I have this one. Pairing, I see pairing in this card, and I like solving puzzles with other people. So you basically add to the conversation. That's all. And you can do it in any random order. Anyone who recognizes something and wants to add to the conversation, you just put your card in the middle. All right, for about 15 minutes, go ahead. Come on.
So I think you have to, do you not start by...
You start with this card and then someone else can add their own to have the story.
Okay.
That's what I just saw them do.
I thought that whoever puts a set like this.
This plus your card.
We
I'll put this one down. Just this time and the time zones and downtime. For me, helps me because I've lived in a lot of countries and I love going there and the time zones. But it sure changes the way I see it. It's almost like you're looking through two different faces.
Okay, I'll throw this down. The time, the downtime, and the perspective that you have helps you be more successful. Achieve what you
We should map it out. If I had this many eyes, I could probably figure it out.
If we collaborate, we can figure it out faster.
So with renewed focus and the engagement, things work out. So from this side.
That's a dude.
And it takes all of us.
Should we try another one? That was kind of fun, yeah, it was. So, I guess maybe mix them up and let's go for another.
That's one of the
All right, 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. Let's hustle the car together.
Happy cows for happy cheese. And it just makes me want to dance.
Open the eyes. Even the
Three more minutes.
watch the results very, very closely.
I probably should time it. That's right.
Schedule. I guess crossing the line.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, what's this guy?
which one before you?
SVALN.
Yep. I know.
So from here, those new ones?
Yeah. I responded to you. Join us. Because one of your posts didn't have.
Oh, I did. I got different ones.
So I was giving you a hard time.
Okay, time to wrap up. Last minute. Finish your story.
Where X marks the spot.
Somewhere in the middle. What spot is it? I can see that.
Doesn't look like a dance
Everyone's talking about that dance.
Okay.
There's always the
I got myself a little bit of coffee.
Let's weigh our options.
I'll be right back.
I think you're right.
Let's celebrate. Yay! Okay. Thank you too. So you can imagine that this is a very simple exercise that you can do with any coaching, one-on-one, or whatever relationship to let random things happen. You will have you can have very interesting conversations emerge that you could not predict. For example, 3 weeks ago I did a workshop in München, in Germany, and one person was at this table playing the game, and the story emerged that she had attended my original 2-day class, and they had used the kudo cards back then during the class to give each other compliments, and at the end of the 2 days she was the only one who had not received a kudo card from anyone else. And she felt very sad when she went home. And I understand that. Nothing that I could have prevented there, I suppose, except maybe changing the rules of giving kudo cards. But would be typically a good practice that failed in a certain context, in a certain situation. It is good to know this as the person who promotes a practice like that. It's useful knowledge. I would never have discovered this story if it didn't emerge spontaneously. So I have a version of it also in the form of questions instead of cards, which is in the book, or statements actually. Sorry, they're statements, not questions. That you can simply pick random statements from 120. Like I think we can do a better job. ... And then you simply need to finish that sentence. Interesting to see what emerges in a conversation. And yes, I made all the pictures myself on these cards. So I was looking for applause, but yeah. So I want to start wrapping up and then do a Q&A, because I'm sure at least some people indicated that they might have a question or two. So my point is, everyone is responsible for management. We shouldn't be looking at other people and wonder how we can change them. That's not how we make better organizations. We can start making the first steps ourselves by introducing the use of a celebration grid, or by introducing delegation poker, or moving motivators, or start discussing merit money, or anything. Some practices are easier than others, I admit. Salary formula, yes, that requires quite some discussions to get started. But others, the kudo box, that is easy to start complimenting people next week, right? So pick the right ones. And I offer them as workout exercises. No, it's not a framework, it's not a method. Usually people have this weird idea of imposing structures on social systems. It doesn't work like that. One of the questions that I get quite often is, which companies have already implemented Management 3.0? That question doesn't make sense to me. I understand the question from given the mindset that people have. So I need to have a proper answer. I'm still struggling with the proper answer. But, sorry?
The answer is lots.
Lots, yes. Well, what I answer with, well, the question should be the other way around. From which companies did I steal my practices? Many. I have stories from Poland, from China, from the US, from everywhere. Google's OKR system doesn't mean that Google is practicing Management 3.0. It means that they have one thing that for me makes total sense, which is their performance system. They might be doing other stuff that is ridiculous. I don't know. But there's one thing that for me stands out. Same with lots of other practices in other organizations. Together, I call it all the examples of Management 3.0 thinking. Oh, and by the way, Management 1.0, if you really want to know, is bad management, right? It's command and control, hierarchical, whatever, treating people as cogs in a machine, etc. Management 2.0 is trying to do the right thing, but having it completely wrong. Like, we're going to implement Agile in the next 3 months in a planned top-down approach, right? That is, well, the idea is there. It's a good step in the right direction, but you're still not there. 3.0 is management done well. Seeing it as a complex system, a social system. And then you need some healthy workout exercises to get a healthy organization. So, are there any questions? Anyone? One person already had his hand up.
Yeah.
Maybe you can start. Oh, and by the way, I have, apart from the books that you can, that Stacy has promised you, I have 3 copies of How to Change the World for the 3 best questions asked. Not the first ones, the best ones. And I decide. All right, go ahead.
So I really like the presentation, and I feel like some of the, obviously like suggested the workouts are very practical, but I'm a software engineer, so I cannot implement these things in my company. How do you suggest like going for like people who don't have that like command to like start or show it to your boss or whoever has the authority that hey, let's use some of these workouts and play these games.
So, well, I have to disagree with you on the first part. Except for the salary formula, I think, and maybe merit money, all of them can be initiated by anyone in the organization. So one thing I suggest, for example, is delegation board. For people who feel disempowered, simply visualize empowerment. It is what we do all the time in the Agile community. When we struggle with workflow, we visualize workflow just to understand what is happening so we can start optimizing stuff in a more holistic way. If we have troubles with our business model, we visualize our business model with a business model canvas. So if we have a problem with empowerment, delegation, teams feel that they have insufficient authority to make their own decisions, visualize it with a delegation board. Anyone can do that. And then show to management and ask them, can you please define the proper constraints? And then the discussion starts. And people have achieved great results by simply starting with what you have now, and then discussing, what about vacation days? It is now in column 2, or basically you tell me when I can go on a vacation. What about, can we move this to level 3, or maybe 4 even, that we agree together? And then per key decision area, you start a conversation. Anyone can put up practice. I admit some practices are difficult to start with. I mean, salaries, it's hard to do that, as discussed as some software developer. But most of them, anyone should be able to start.
I have one more. This is more like a kind of a doubt, but you can answer it. So the games that you showed, the Kudo game, and give like people hugs to send hugs and stuff. It sounds really cute, but I feel like I think I've also read it in either Harvard Business Review article or somewhere that the best motivation for employees is to give them money, and that's the number one motivation. So if let's say companies do this too much and they're not really showing like putting the money where their mouth is and taking care of the employees, don't you think this can backfire like go the other way?
I use cute names because I like it. But nobody is required to call their credits hugs. You can call them credits or dollars or whatever. High fives, yes. I believe at Zappos they call them all ors or awesomes or something like that. So terminology aside, you can pick and choose there. I disagree with the idea that money is the main motivator for people. There's a stack of evidence this high, scientific research says that it isn't. Yeah, exactly. It is part, obviously. I mean, if you don't pay people, they walk away, obviously. But it is a hygiene factor, as Frederick Herzberg said. It needs to be a sufficient amount so that people are able not to worry about money anymore, and then purpose and mastery and social relatedness and etc. All those other intrinsic motivators start doing their work. And so you don't have to pay people a huge amount of money, just a good amount that they can stop worrying about feeding their children, paying their mortgage, and then inspire them with great work. Time for somebody else. Thank you. Good. Thanks for the question. Somebody needs to decide. Stacey, you decide who gets the question.
Randy's got it on the
Not
side.
at the end.
Over there at the end?
Way at the end.
Right at the end. All right. The lady over there?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm Samina Khazi. I'm with Walmart Labs. I have a question about ideas such as the salary formula and merit money.
Right.
How would you scale those efforts, especially if you're globally distributed and, you know, very large company? I mean, I would love to see those ideas and it's part of the system, but everybody has their own, you know, mindset, and there are a lot of different opinions around that. How would you, as an Agile coach, how can I initiate that? That's what
Great question. I don't know. That is a short answer. The examples I have are from relatively small companies, including mine, including IGN that I referred to. I believe there's a small part of News Corporation where they apply this. That being said, I do not believe that it cannot scale. Twitter scales, but they started small. Any social network can scale. It is just difficult to predict what the network effects are going to be when it scales to larger organizations. But there are plenty of organizations that have specific rules that, like, we will not grow bigger than 150 people. If we go bigger, we grow bigger, we split. Right? WL Board does something like that. So you can easily implement something like that per group unit of 150 people. That is relatively small. And then let the others implement something else in the other office. So I think it entirely depends on how the organization is structured. One of my favorite examples is, inspiring examples is Whole Foods, which is known for people negotiating their own salaries within the supermarkets. They're all teams, and they decide on their own salaries. CEO and HR has nothing to do with it. So it is easy for them to start implementing this on a team. No problem, because they have nothing to do with the others. It's what they can decide for themselves. So we would need to know a lot more about the specific company to see which angle you can use. But I'm sure you can start somewhere at a small scale, even if it's a simple safe-to-fail experiment, like we will only use credits, just to experiment with it. There is no money involved. Just use it as a crediting system. There will already be interesting things happening when you start crediting other people for contributions to a team effort. You'd be surprised at what happens, because usually people overestimate their own contributions. So if you ask any driver in the world, then 70% of them think that they are above average drivers. Among college professors, it is 80%. Among keynote speakers, it is 90% think that they are above average. Keynote speakers are quite sure. So you cannot use that information at self-assessment, useless. And we're very good at evaluating other people around us. So that's why merit money, I think, is interesting. Over there.
Yeah, hi, Jeff Winger. I was just thinking through all this, and as parts of what you were saying, I was thinking this is brilliant, and other parts I thought, this isn't going to work. And
I agree with the first part, yeah.
It's because when I think about the company where I'm at right now, where the company tries to have these great big bang changes and tries to implement change for everyone, this sort of thing doesn't work. But then again, I think to a previous employer where they had small teams and they allowed those teams to be independent, do whatever, Scrum teams basically. And I saw Scrum Masters, good Scrum Masters implementing these kinds of things, the kudos box, the big celebration bell. And I realized that in my own organization, if we actually allowed teams to be independent and Scrum Masters to be empowered to do their own stuff, we could implement this stuff real well. And I think maybe that's my answer to this scaling issue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can ask, how do we scale the bell to 10,000 people? Well, you need a really, really loud bell, I suppose. But maybe you should just delegate that practice to smaller units within the organization, and maybe some of them don't like a bell. They want something else, as long as they celebrate something.
Yeah, but in the place that did these things, one team would see the bell and another team doing it, another team would see the kudos thing being done by another team, and it would spread organically, and it was okay, because it was okay that everyone was doing exactly the same.
Yeah, and it can also be that you get sick of a certain practice.
Yeah.
I mean, I have had some practice that we do for a period of time, and then it didn't work anymore. Fine, stop it. That is why I call them workout exercises. At some point, the crunches are not helping you anymore. You need to do something else, because that part of the body is developed enough. So you need to switch practices. The microphone is going where? Over there. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tony. One of the things that we've done, I work for Walmart, and one of the things that we've done is we've implemented kudos. The kudos, I implemented it within my team. I was a Scrum Master. I just became coach about a week ago. And so what we've done is, at first the team really didn't want to do anything with Agile. Their stand-ups were approximately, I walked out after 45, 50 minutes of the first stand-up. And they really didn't believe in Agile. They didn't believe that it was the right thing to do. They didn't think that anything was right with it. I've turned around the team now. I was running a week ago, 9 boards. And so I had 9 different teams I was running. And what we did is we showed empathy to the team. We showed that the kudos was the right way to go, to be able to have the other team members. It wasn't me that gave the kudos out. We kind of did what you were saying, is that we had the other teams vote, and they would come to me and tell me who was to be the recipient of the kudos. We did that within the team. Now we built it out to other teams, out to the DBAs, out to other teams within the organization, and out to teams outside the country. I guess my question to you is that I like your idea. I really like how you're going. I'm wondering, what do you have in mind from 3.0 to 4.0? Where do you see this thing going?
Retirement.
Where do you see 4.0 going? Where do you see us going? You've laid the foundation.
Yeah.
What's your next step?
I believe that organizations are becoming less and less important as a concept. I believe that was more important in the past, but several global developments point to the direction that more and more people can do anything they want, and then just move fluidly from one organization to the other, and nobody actually can define what is an organization anymore. What is GE? You cannot describe that in one sentence. It's many companies, and they share a name, but they hardly know of each other's existence, basically. Same with the Tata Group. It's huge, but they're all small companies, and they share a name and a shareholder, but they're all extremely independent in how they operate. And there was a Harvard Business Review article that said that such companies are actually, they outperform all the others. They outperform enterprises, the ones that are more conglomerates of companies, like franchise systems or cooperatives. There are different versions of it. And I think this trend will move on and become more and more fluid, how we see organizations. They're simply temporary constructs that are convenient for people to work together. And sometimes it is convenient to draw the circle like this, and sometimes it's convenient to draw the circle like this. Who cares? It's about people. So one of my favorite comments of one of my friends, Fashko Duarte, in Germany, he said, I don't want to help organizations. I want to help them die. And he had a very good point, because he said organizations have a shorter and shorter lifetime. If you can compare the average age of organization now compared to decades ago, it gets smaller and smaller. He says it's a good thing. It means we're iterating faster. We're iterating faster in understanding how to draw those circles among people. Ultimately, it's about the people. Individuals and interactions and their processes and tools. No reference to organization, who cares, right? There are legal constructs, there are lots of ways of doing that, and let's enjoy the solutions that we have for collaboration. But I think this will be de-emphasized. So 3.0 for me is helping organizations do a better job. 4.0 might be a total move away, let's ignore organization. This is about the people, and just people stuff. That's one idea. Who gets the microphone? You have.
It's more of a comment, which I believe that, he said that how can we start this in an organization? I believe that I'm going to start this at my home. Many of the practices, I'm going to get salary from my wife probably. Come to a conclusion on that part, but many other pieces, I think, those are, I could start those within my friends circle. I could pass kudos to my friends, and this is a great initiative. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It was not a question. It deserves the book, but it was not a question. Okay. Any last? I think we have 1 or 2 minutes left, Stacy. But you're the man. You rule. Bernie, you decide.
Hey, Jurgen. Bernie Maloney.
Hey.
So, a question that comes to mind. Whenever bringing Agile into an organization, one of the greatest hurdles that I've encountered is the fear of managers of, oh crap, what happens when we have self-empowered teams? What out of your practices, what out of this workout would you recommend for addressing that fear of managers of actually liberating their teams?
Delegation work. Yeah. Because if you look at intrinsic motivation, I have this moving motivators exercise with 10 motivators that are basically stolen from Stephen Rice's 16 intrinsic desires, and I remove the ones that I think do not really apply to organizations, like love and sex and stuff like that. So the 10 that apply to a business context, 2 of them are power and status. For some people, power and status is important, or influence, or whatever word you want to use for it. And we have systems in organizations, hierarchical systems, that have a tendency to suck people who appreciate power and status into management positions. That makes sense. This is how the system works. The people who don't care much about power and status, they tend to do other kinds of things that they like very much. Now, you go in and introduce Agile, or with Scrum, or whatever, and you're telling them, you're not going to make decisions anymore. Now they're going to do it. Well, obviously they're going to resist. You're taking something away that is important for them. Now that doesn't mean that they are unimportant people, you just have to give them something else in return that enables them to have a feeling of power and status in a different form. And I believe with delegation work you can achieve that. So I use the metaphor of the horse usually, because management actually is derived from the word managare, which means taking care of horses. You didn't know that probably. It is true. Manege in my language, Dutch, means place where we stable horses. It's all from the same root. So it's about managing horses, a living system. Now, a fully self-organizing horse, that would be a wild horse. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to sit on a wild horse and slap its ass and say, yeehaw, and then hope and pray that it runs in the right direction. That would be bad management. So you should be able to explain to the manager, you're still needed. The horse needs guidance in order to be able to win the race, but you have to treat it like a living system, not like a machine. It deserves your care, your nurturing and love, etc. But it needs constraints, and there needs to be a fence somewhere, etc. You need the bridle, the spurs, etc. That is the delegation board. The key decision areas, the several levels of delegation, and you explain to the horse, that is the team or the business unit, this is how far you're allowed to self-organize in this area. Vacation days, salaries, technologies, whatever. And some self-organizing systems are more mature than other self-organizing systems. Hopefully you can develop that maturity. That's a huge responsibility as a manager. If you can explain it to a smart person like that, you have full control over self-organization. Basically, we have to control self-organization. So there you see the power of study. Then if you introduce it like that, any manager says, oh yeah, I really want that. It is not about placing the feet of the horse, that doesn't make sense. But you have to put the constraint somewhere, as I do with it as a facilitator of workshops as well. So I think that will be the most sensible thing to start. All right, thank you.
We have one last question.
One last question, the master said.
Okay, thank you, Jurgen. Is this on? Okay. My name is Frederick Mank.
Hey, Frederick.
Flip the switch. Okay.
It's not on. Oh, switching.
Okay.
Yep.
My name is Frederick Mank. Thank you for this evening. I have a question for you. How do you motivate yourself with this stuff? Because I've been following you for a long time and also read you some of the books. How do you motivate you?
What a great question. How do I motivate myself? When I play moving motivators, freedom was at the top. I love freedom. That's why I'm self-employed. Nobody tells me how to do my job. And I can do anything I want. And I like doing the more difficult stuff. I could have gone the easy road and just do Scrum courses and certificates or whatever, but I couldn't care. I'm glad other people do that. Many of them do a great job. I like to develop my own brand. Much more difficult, much more fun. And I'm a creator. I like reading stuff. As I said, I like solving puzzles. When I was 11 years old, my teacher already told my parents he should do something with analysis, problem analysis or something, because I was always trying to solve problems. I was working days, I was working on the Rubik's Cube when I was 14 years old. I had to solve it. So this is, for me, solving problems, but they're social problems. I find parts of puzzles where when I travel around the world, because I enjoy my freedom, I see many countries, I meet many fascinating people, and they have pieces of the puzzles, and I'm the global bumblebee traveling around and putting the puzzles together, and then I arrive at something called the delegation board, or merit money, whatever, because I've seen stuff that people do. I simply connect it and I give it a name and I make some nice illustrations because that's what I had. And then people say, oh, this is so great, now I don't have to read those other boring books. I just read yours. They do that. So there's very little new in what I do except that I make it easily digestible for people and more easy to copy next week so that they can start implementing things. And I think that's what I contribute to the Agile community. And I add an illustration or two. All right, thanks. Great question. The last gentleman over there, saying a hand out. Thank you for the great question. And the lady over there with a question about merit money and self-employment. Over there, oh, a long way. All right. And we had a gentleman over there who had a question, what about 4.0? That was a great question. Thank you. All right, thanks. And yeah, well, if you have time, you can still join us tomorrow. But I'm sure you have other things to do. So just follow me on SlideShare or my blog or Twitter, and my book in the Kindle version will be out in a couple of weeks. I'm working on it. It's hard. Porting to another platform. But not a lot to do anymore. Thank you.
That's true. Thank you, Jurgen, for coming, everyone. Fantastic. So Jurgen's going to stick around until 9-ish. He does need to get back up to San Francisco. So,
sure.
So we want to be respectful of that. Traffic's horrible. So we're going to be sticking around. There's plenty of food left over. A couple of things. Just a reminder about the jobs and announcements board. If you're interested in posting an announcement or a job, you're more than welcome to do that and use that as a vehicle to communicate those things. A couple of quick things on, I think we promised you one book. So, truth be told, I ordered my books from, I won't say which company it is, they're nearby, I don't want to upset them. But I ordered it and they didn't show up until today, as I was at work. So in order to compensate for that shortcoming, we're going to give away 2 books, not just one. So I gotta go. Sorry, I gotta go to my. So this is where it is. All right, the winners of the 2 books, Tony Goulart. Wow. Tony. Oh wow, we got 2 books. And Suyash Joshi. All right, there you go. We're ready. We'll have them sent to you. So that's not all you get. So you guys have got some free stuff tonight. Not only did you get a great talk with Jurgen, get to speak with them. You guys also have a free copy of the Management 3.0 workout. It's free. Awesome. Thank you to Jurgen.
Over here. Yeah.
And so if you guys are who needs a copy of the Management 3.0 book? Who needs one? You guys don't have one. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send out on Meetup a link where you can get 35% off of the book, and so that you guys can order your own copy. Okay, so I think it might be helpful. So 35% off, and I'll make sure it lands in your inbox tonight. So with that said, again, special thanks to Erickson, who provided this terrific venue. Who organized all of the venue. Thanks to Brian Drummond, who helps set up. And where's Steve Sandhoff? Steve Sandhoff, who brought all the stuff that from the office and carried all the stuff in your group. So thank you for setting up.
I leave the postcards here, so please take any amount that you like and bring them back home and send them to anyone that you like or hate. They're yours, all right? So please don't let me carry them back home.
Great. Now, and if that's it, anything else? Yeah. All right. Great. Have a good evening. Thanks everyone for coming.